Greetings from Mobility Outlook and welcome to Women in Mobility. Our guest for today is Ms. Rashmi Gopala Rao, Principal Industry Manager, Automotive at MathWorks. With over 23 years of industry experience, Rashmi has navigated through Tier 1 companies like Bosch, OEM giant like Maruti Suzuki India, and tool providers such as ETAS and MathWorks. In her current role, Rashmi is at the helm of strategic technology planning and rollout for the India region. Her expertise lies in crafting products, sales, and marketing strategies for tools in embedded software development with a special focus on the automotive powertrain controllers and across various segments. Not just limited to her managerial role, Rashmi is passionate about understanding the key trends in the Indian automotive industry. She actively engages with senior executives and industry bodies to champion the adoption of MathWorks tools in the mega trends of automated driving, electrification, and data sciences. Rashmi's professional journey is a testament to her proficiency in embedded software design and development, covering a spectrum from powertrain, that is ICE to EV and chassis, automated driving, and body electronics. Her extensive work spans across diesel control systems, body control, chassis, data sciences, and ADAS domains. Let's gain insights from the wealth of experience and knowledge that Rashmi Rao brings to our discussion. What were your aspirations as a child when you were growing up?
Sure. So I think as a student and as a child, I was always interested in STEM subjects. Right? So my mother was a maths teacher. So science and maths was something we discussed a lot at home. Of course, being from a middle class background, finding financial independence was something that was in my mind very early, something my father dreamt about. So when it was time to choose a career, engineering sort of seemed as a very natural choice to pursue. Once I started engineering, I discovered that I like microprocessors, microcontrollers as a subject very much, right? So this was in the third semester. So quite naturally, I also picked up a job in embedded software development. So my first company was HCL. And interestingly, Murli, it was in Chennai, right? So I started my career here, where I wrote embedded software for medical devices, right? So medical equipments and devices. Now my brush with automotive started in 2001 when I joined Bosch because the job was in Chennai. I wanted to go back home. Well, it's been 22 years now in the automotive industry around embedded software.
Okay.
And I have found my home here.
Very interesting, very interesting. So I think you also did some PMP certification.
Yes.
How has it really helped you in your career? What is it about?
Yes. So PMP is actually Project Management Professional, right? It is an internationally recognized framework on managing big projects. Now, the interesting thing about PMP, Murli, is it is domain agnostic, right? It teaches you how to basically manage complex projects. How do you initiate a project? How do you execute a project? How do you monitor the project? And how do you sort of close the project with the constraints of cost, quality, and time, right? Now, how it has helped me, making a project plan when I was, doing software projects in Bosch, or being sort of making a plan when I was at Maruti at a vehicle level program, or executing a very large marketing event where there are several stakeholders, there are constraints of budget, there are times, and so many things need to come together to bring a community together to execute this. PMP has helped me. Interestingly, PMP also helps you at home. So if you're renovating a home, if you're planning your personal life, the framework is a wonderful framework where you can basically efficiently plan and execute projects. So, and I would highly recommend for people who require project management as a skill, and I believe most of us do, right? Life is a series of projects.
Absolutely.
It's a great framework to know.
Absolutely. You worked for a Tier 1 company, you worked for an OEM, and then you shifted to product company.
Yes.
So how the expertise in OEM and Tier 1 helped you shine in product company?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, Murli. When I worked at a Tier 1, it gave me the experience of depth, right? So I basically had to go very deep in the domain to be able to write software for diesel control. So the experience there taught me the depth of technology. It taught me the depth of domain. Right? When I moved to an OEM, I got a 360-degree view of how the business runs, right? And I was fortunate enough to work with the largest passenger car maker in the country. And the learning was just immense, right? You get to see the industry, at a close view of how the wheels turn. So that was about the OEM part, right? On the other side of the table of a tier one. Then when I joined a product company, which was ETAS, I actually learned sales and marketing, and I managed a business. I understood basically how P&L work, and what one needs to do to maintain bottom lines, and things like that. Now at MathWorks, my role is basically to plan technology and to see how our tools can be used for different use cases in the automotive. Now, as you can see, this experience that I have gained from these different businesses helps me to perform this role much more effectively because I understand the industry, I understand the drivers, right? The experience that I carry now over the domain, over the business, basically helps me in this role of MathWorks.
Very interesting. So you picked up all the best practices and probably
the knowledge of the
collaborated and then applicating this. Yeah.
So I work very closely with development to understand the emerging trends like software-defined vehicle, what we are talking about now as an industry, and learning how to execute that. Then I work basically with my sales to devise strategies on how basically we should be selling into different accounts. I work with strategic customers to enable them to make sure that they have the right backing from MathWorks so that they can deliver on their time critical and the critical projects that they are taking up. And of course, I also help to convey the vision of MathWorks. So I participate in conferences, in different thought leadership events, where I can share the vision of the investments we are making as a company, while also learning from the industry and taking it back, to MathWorks. So this is basically to sum up my experience and my education, sort of coming together to what I do at MathWorks today.
Very good, very interesting. But I'm sure you have a lot of experienced a lot of challenges because in different industrial segment, meeting different customers, etc. So share a little bit about the challenges and then how did you manage?
Sure. So challenges again, if I were to look back, Murli, the challenges are very different in different stages of the career, right? Now as a fresher when I joined, I remember there was a quick ramp up to learn how the industry works, right? So there's a ramp up from what you were doing in university to actually what you do in an organization. So that's one challenge that required a quick ramp up. When I started leading teams very early, very often the people in my team would be more senior than me, right? So how do you establish credibility? How do you establish leadership while not really being, a boss lady, if you may, and getting the team together to deliver on results? That was something I had to learn. I won't call it a challenge, but a learning, right? When I started working with ETAS and now with MathWorks, like you said, I meet a variety of customers, right? So each one has a different perspective on things. Each one has a different requirement. Sometimes the challenges are like technical, which we have to solve. Sometimes they're interpersonal relationships. Sometimes it's situational handling. So it's a lot of learning of different skills, So my job involves being technically clear and competent. It also involves working with customers, so the relationship handling and nurturing them. And sort of when both these come together, that's when you can successfully deliver on projects. So while I don't exactly call them as challenges, Murli, these are some of the skills that I learned over the time based on what the role demanded.
Rashmi, I think you might have a lot of colleagues, women colleagues in the organization that you work in because it deals with software. Yeah. But your clientele will be probably, male-dominated nature.
Absolutely.
How did you manage?
That's a very good question, Murli, right? I mean, I have been in customer places where there's no restroom for women sometimes, right? So they tell me that you have to walk this block and that's where. So some places, that's how sparse the women are. How do I manage with that? So very early, I think I stopped looking at this as a gender issue, started looking at it as we are colleagues. If I bring value to the table, the gender doesn't matter.
That's it.
Right? Demonstrating clarity, demonstrating value sometimes is, if you may, the LCM, and the gender doesn't begin, that doesn't come into the equation. So this is how I look at it. But of course, I would like to see more and more women in the workforce in automotive.
Great. You're part of Society of Automotive Engineers,
Yes.
Bangalore chapter. Are women engineers represented in the forum?
That's a
Adequately?
great question. That's a great question. So sort of continuing the thread from the last question, we definitely want more women in SAE, right? Automotive has traditionally been a mechanical industry, and mechanical engineering has traditionally been associated with men, right? But today the automotive fabric is changing. There's electronics. The future of automotive will probably be software, right? So definitely we are seeing more women, and communities like SAE must sort of show that, must be a representation of that. So your question will be, what are we doing about that, right? So I'm happy to share with you that at the Bangalore section, when I proposed that, we have an event where we sort of tailor that around women engineers. We give them a stage where they can come and talk about their technical achievements, where they can learn to network. Women are typically, that's not an inherent skill in us, right? So I almost had unanimous agreement from the other management committee members. So I would say stay tuned. There's something, as a start, where we want to sort of exclusively reach out to the women engineers and, sort of invite them into SAE, have more representation from them in what I would say is a great community for automotive engineers.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a great community. Yes, of course. What are the key moments in your leadership journey?
Sure, Murli. So let me rewind, on what I believe are some of those defining moments, right? We all have them, defining moments, defining projects.
Sure.
So for me, I think the first one was when, 1.5 years into my career, I was asked to lead a team of 5 people, out of which 2 were senior, they were male, much more experienced than me. What that taught me, and sort of a defining moment for me, was how do you lead a team when people are more senior than you, and how do you establish your credibility there, and how do you have different styles for different members, right? So 3 of them younger, need guidance, need coaching, 2 of them older than you, how do you carry them along and deliver on the project? Expect respect, right? So how do you build that camaraderie and still deliver it, right, while you're being the boss, if you may. The second one, I would say, is leading a team when we were writing the specifications for software for the first time in that company. And how to lead a team through ambiguity. No one's done this before. We need to guide them technically and also let them know that it's okay to get out of the comfort zone. It's okay to fail, but we need to try new things to grow. So that was the second one, and I'm happy to say that that project was successful. I'm not with the company now, but I know there are many people doing this today, and we sort of were the first people to do that, to write that specification. So that was the second moment, right, to take up new things and to drive in ambiguity. The third for me, Murli, would be when I led the HIL business. Now, HIL is a hardware business, so there are very strong pressures on the margin, right? Very different from software business, where the lead times are different, the margins are different. At that time, I understood that the leadership style has to also be different. It's a different business environment. So one can't be very democratic. One has to take hard decisions, sometimes not the most popular ones. But in the interest of running that business right, there has to be a certain leadership style.
Sure.
Again, I'm happy to say we grew the business, we doubled the business in less than 5 years, which is again a big achievement. But yes, different style of leadership. And as I grow in my career, Murli, I realize that leadership is more and more about how you can have an influence on people who don't report into you directly, right? Because the larger the project gets, there are stakeholders which may not be reporting into you. So how do you build that collective vision, and get their agreement on projects and deliver in a large group? That's something that I see as a very important leadership trait, which now basically my role expects me to demonstrate. So I would say these are the defining moments in my journey. Each of these moments has taught me a different flavor of leadership, and I believe that as a leader, you can't have one style in every situation, in every business, in every project. A successful leader adapts adapts according to the team, adapts according to the situation, adapts according to what the project or what the business needs. And I guess that's what brings success.
Wow. I think that has given you an overall experience, right?
Yes, that's
Wow,
true.
that's
Yes.
interesting. So, what are your thoughts on empowering women, diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Sure, important topic for today. Um, I think diversity doesn't mean quotas, right? So nowadays I hear about, if you may, reservation or seats that are in quota for women leaders. And mostly I find that funny, right? For a system that has systematically purged women in their middle management, and then they want to recruit women at the top. For me, that's a systemic failure, and that's, I think, what we need to fix.
Okay.
So the most important thing is to support women in their childbearing years and to give them flexibility to manage, the child and the home and the job.
The family,
And the job. So if we do that well as an organization, I think leaders will emerge, because I fundamentally believe that women are as capable as men, but the single most challenge is in the child rearing years. So that's one big thought I have on diversity. But today diversity is not just gender, right? I mean, we are all learning that it's much more than gender. And here, maybe I can quote an example from MathWorks. So one of our core principles is respect and invest. So we respect every colleague in MathWorks, right? Every math worker, and we invest in their success, right? So you are a stakeholder in people's success around you. And in our diversity inclusion program, we actually have trainings to remove bias, because a lot of this, if you may, non-inclusiveness happens because of biases. So we have to learn to be more open. We have to learn to accept change. We have to learn to accept differences. And programs like this really help to attack the issue, at the root, if you may. So we need more women leaders. We need to cultivate the middle management so they get there. I think more women at the top means more diversity, and that will also get nurtured in the different layers of the organization. So my thoughts about diversity inclusion.
But do you see women also have a stigma? Okay, whether I can do, whether I can grow.
Yes. No, certainly, I do see that. So some things that I have observed is demonstrating confidence. I feel that sometimes we take a back seat, right? To demonstrate clarity and confidence together is very important. And of course, you have to have your technical standing and your value behind you, but demonstrating that confidence is very important. Sometimes I also see that we tend to carry an inherent guilt. If we do very well in our career, maybe we are not being a good enough mother, maybe we are not being a good enough wife, maybe we are not taking care of our parents and parents-in-law. So I have heard statements from my team members that say, at least I'm working. The bar is that low sometimes.
Okay.
Why should it be, right? I mean, we're working just as hard as anybody else. So these are more internal, if you may, barriers that we need to come across, right? Some years back, I read this book from Sheryl Sandberg, and it's called Lean In, and it's a book about how she basically, if you may, broke the glass ceiling and reached where she did in Facebook. And she makes a very important point. She says that we need to ask. And she wrote in the book that when she was carrying her child, the parking lot was very far away from the building, and obviously it was uncomfortable for her to get to and fro. And it took her a lot of time to realize that all she had to do was ask for a parking closer to the building, right? I mean, it's a simple example. So sometimes we don't ask, right? And we expect the system to come to us and to include. But the first step is ask, communicate that. So that's another thing I think, as women we need to do. And I think demonstrating these are important, and sort of not carrying that, difference in your head that, being a woman makes a difference. So some of the things I have seen, we need to overcome that. We need to learn to network better. We need to put ourselves out there. And I think then the glass ceiling is probably not there. We all can get there.
And also you need to balance professional personal life also,
Yes, yes.
going forward it's going to be a bit difficult as women grew up in the
In the ladder. No, certainly. I mean, I can share what I practice and what I have seen some women leaders do. So I'm a huge planner. I can tell you my next year Q1 is planned. I know the main things that I'm going to be doing there, right? Both professionally and personally. We need to sort of unapologetically prioritize, when because the job is many roles into one, and then you have, you're a mother, you're a wife, and you're doing so many things. So you need to prioritize. And another thing I've learned is probably meshing both. You can't really say that, okay, today I do only this from this time to this time, and then I do only this. How do you sort of seamlessly integrate the two is something that we need to learn to do better. I mean, when there are things at home that you have to take care, be it your child, be it your aging parents. Aging parents is another thing, right? I mean, when you're growing in your career, you have two sets of generations that you're actually taking care about. It's okay to say that you need some time off again, right? And I have seen, if you bring value to the organization, no matter where, the organization accepts that you need that time. But the important thing is not to drop out, to make that a sort of a hurdle and say that I can't do this. So how do you sort of cope with these things? All said and done, easier said than done. It's a tightrope walk, if you may. But if we need to pave, if I don't know, 10 years from now, Murli, hopefully you're not doing this because there are as many women in leadership that, we don't need a Women's Day or sort of a women in mobility segment. Then I think women of our generation need to pave the way and to need to demonstrate to our daughters and the next generation that this is possible.
So how do you spend your leisure time? Hobbies? What are your hobbies?
Yeah, sure. So I love to travel, Murli. I love to travel.
Despite traveling for business?
Despite traveling for business, but this travel is with family, where, I get to spend a lot of time with my 13-year-old son. I get to connect with my husband, and love to spend time with my parents when I can. I also have a huge set of friends who are also my support system when I need them. So when I have time, I like to spend time with them. I'm planning to pick up cycling with my husband, so that's his hobby in 2024. That's something I want to invest in. I have learned that I need to invest in health, right? Again, that's very important for us as women, which we tend to ignore and take a back seat. But yes, we need to find time for that. I don't know whether to call it a hobby, but better to make it a hobby so it doesn't seem like work. So these are some of the ways. I love reading as well, Murli. So whenever I can, I do read literature, classics that I enjoy.
Wow. Rashmi, it was wonderful talking to you. Thanks so much for participating in Mobility Outlook's Women in Mobility.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Murli.